All right, here we go. Big weekend, and we're back.
Huge, fantastic, amazing weekend. It's May 21st, 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. Listen to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 770.
Yeah, it is. We figured that out.
Yeah, you did. It has taken a while. I feel like 800 is going to be in like 7 months.
It's like the end of an Ironman, man. You just keep slowing down.
I feel like when is it? I feel like podcasts 750 through right now. I feel like we are on loop 2 of the Ironman Wisconsin course out on the trail running by the lake.
Yeah,
not much going on. Not a ton of fanfare.
Dark.
You think it's almost over. You think you're almost back, but you're not. And I feel like that's the kind of the lull it's been in here in the last little bit. But it's always good to be back, and it's good to be back to talking to everybody tuning in today. It was a insane, crazy racing weekend, which always is, I think, the weekend before Memorial Day, because not much happens this coming weekend. Everybody's out at the lake. People taking off work, backyard barbecues, pool parties, neighborhood pools opening up, kids graduating. So there's not much going on this coming weekend. But this last weekend, it was just nonstop. You had Chat 70.3, which was, I heard they had at least 7,000 participants on course. Then you had Moro Bay. Yeah, well, I'll talk about that in a little bit too. We had Moro Bay, which had apparently a cold but a ridiculously difficult swim. You had Olympics, sprints, half marathons. I mean, it was jam-packed, and we had athletes racing all over. It was an awesome, amazing weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit as the show goes on. But if it's your first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. He and I also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes in the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite little amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also like to utilize our Facebook group, and you can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, and let's right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource. In a sport that is oftentimes way overcomplicated and way too confusing, it is a solid, actionable space to get great information from qualified age group athletes that have been around the block and that are willing to take time out of their day to help you avoid some of the same pitfalls that we've all had along our way. We'll go in there about once a month, do a little bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community, answer as many questions as we can on the air. And that is it. We have no sponsors and we have no ads, but we are very clear and transparent about our agenda, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, and you'll be happy to know I wore that T-shirt this weekend.
Oh, you did?
The one that Brad made where he put the intro on the back, all the words.
From Mrs. Kim Lesky?
Yeah. So he was here this weekend. We had a awesome retreat, and as I like to say, it was jam-packed with leisurely activity.
Weekend, dude.
Yeah, including we kind of ended it with a night swim in the dark. Short little swim, very well supported and lit up and everything, but it was good. Perfect weather, and now it's absolutely storming like mad.
Is it really? It's finally came down. Well, I'm glad you went down the lake and battened down the hatches.
Yeah.
Get everything tied
so
down.
Windy. I had to tie up the sup board so they don't blow on the neighbors. That's like a big thing up here. Is the next day everybody's going, hey, whose is this? It's like blowing into the yards and shit.
That's how you go down and have the little neighborhood post-storm swap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got your sup board and I've got your kayak. I need to trade that for the tube, for the life raft and the water float that we've got that washed down the road. That's typical lake life right there. So that's jealous. Yeah, I heard you guys had an amazing weekend. Super jealous of that experience. It's just so great to get away and then to hang out in a nice serene place without having to get in your car and being around awesome people and doing it by the water. I can't think of a better way to spend the weekend.
Yeah. And that's a good transition into our new coaching staff.
Yeah, you're getting really good at this, man. Either that or you've gotten super rusty back from your days, back from your news days. Yeah. Always, yeah. If you're looking for coaching, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. We have our list of coaches in there. Find the one that actually just had an email inquiry come in from one of the coaches, like right before we started the cast. So a lot of people going there, a lot of people checking out the coaches that we have. Awesome staff, and honestly, everyone doing an amazing job. We've been doing this so long, it's really hard to pick, and having your best weekend is such a relative term, right? Because I always kind of go back to when we had all of our athletes finish Ironman Louisville that year. That's kind of one of my favorite racing weekends ever. But yeah, we had an amazing race result weekend. We had 3 overall wins. We had podiums at 70.3s. We had tons of like massive PRs. We had it was an awesome weekend. That's not coming from just Mike and I. That's coming from all of our coaches. So again, if you're interested and need a little bit of a guidance for your coaching and training for the rest of the year, want to explore what that's about, and not just get great quality coaching and awesome feedback and be a part of a team and stop doing it alone. That's your shot. So go out and look through the coaches. If you're not sure which one's right for you, just say I'm looking for you to pair me with the right coach. And kind of what I do is I'll take your questionnaire. You pick your 3, I pick my 3, and we just kind of cross match and do our best version of speed dating, and then pair you with the partner that kind of suits you best. So check them out. Again, a lot of awesome people in there. They're doing a great job, and a lot of different personalities, evenly split, male and female. So you got plenty of options. And it's also your last week to sign up for the C26 online swim school. So hop in there. I think I've got 4 spots left. So if you've been on the fence, hop in there, because as we saw this last weekend at Moro Bay, and even at Chat when it's a downstream, it's a bit longer, is swimming is hard. And swimming to me is like the most unpredictable with conditions. And you saw that at Moro Bay with, I think I heard like 300 plus athletes getting pulled from the water.
Yeah, look,
because of what the current was. And I'm just going to say something real quick, and I'm going to probably get a lot of flack for it. I'm okay with that. Because I had this conversation with an athlete that I know that got pulled from the swim. And I've read a lot. I know it was cold. I know the tide changed. But I just want to say this right now. A 110, which is I think is the current cutoff for 70.3, yeah, because 220 is the full, is too much.
Oh, I hear where you're going.
I listen, I know that everybody has challenges in the water. I get it. And you might say, oh, you're grown up in the water. And yeah, but that's also why I respect it so much. I just think that, Ironman has done the athletes a disservice. And honestly, the athletes have done Ironman a disservice. It's kind of like it's kind of a very unhealthy relationship where the athletes only want to go do races like Augusta, Chattanooga, Oregon, Waco, downriver swims that seem easy. And then they also get, they want to kick Ironman in the crotch when they cancel swims or shorten swims because they want to do the full distance. But then they also complain when it's too hard. And we're like, just can we make up our fucking mind already? It's an Ironman, full distance 7.3, and 220 for a full and 110 for a 7.3 is too much. It's too much time. And I say that because of this. I think because it screams to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't have to take it seriously. You don't have, because to me, it's not about your athletic ability. It's just about safety, because that is the place where getting to an athlete is the hardest, right? Somebody, cramps up on the run, they can sit there and spectators around them. Somebody's on the bike and they have a bike crash, people are around them. And usually the bike crash or athletes are causing other people to crash. It's all that at Chattanooga with, right? I think they had 700-800 people on the course. And every race report I got was that too crowded.
Yeah.
We said that the last year we were there. It was just unbelievable how many people were on that course. But the swim is you can blame it on the lifeguards all you want or the kayak support or whatever, but we have to take more responsibility. as athletes, as coaches, to prepare ourselves and work and just think, it's just 1.2 and I've got an hour and 10. The old man C, as we used to call it, doesn't care. And as we saw at Moro Bay, and as you've seen in many other, Gulf Coast the weekend before, 2 weekends before, had a rip current advisory. You never know, and it's unpredictable what's going to happen. And a lot of times you can't even see it, right? On shore, you can't see a lot of times rip currents on shore. It just kind of happens or comes up during the race. So, I just think we have to do a better job and expect more from ourselves from a preparation standpoint, because it is. If you ask anybody which one they're going to short and which one they're going to not care about because it's the shortest part of the race and it doesn't matter, and I've got an hour and 10, then they're going to say the swim. But it's also the most dangerous part of the race, and it's not even close. It's the swim. It is 100% the swim. You see more deaths in the swim. You see more people DNF in the swim, yet it is the one that athletes take the least amount serious. And it's frustrating to see it go down that way. And then you see, I hate to get people pulled from the water. No one likes DNF, no matter where you are, but I think we have to raise the standard, and I think we all have to do a better job of, no one wants to sign up for these hard swims. I'm like, they're not hard. Like when Ironman was selling out every single race, that was the standard. Open water, mass start was the standard. Races selling out 3,000, 3,500 overnight, year in advance, done. And then now when we started to dangle the down current swim carrot, you're like, oh, there's an easier way. Sign me up, Billy. And then that just kind of penetrates and I think pollutes what the sport's supposed to be about. And I get you're trying to, you want to make the sport more accessible, right, for more people. I get that. But at the same point, what you don't want to do is be we're all familiar with the term enabler. I think Ironman's turned into an enabler when it comes to people's lack of preparation. And you know what else? Yes, more people and more participants, good for business. No doubt, good for business. You know what's bad for business? People not making it out of the swim. You know what's bad for business? People not making it out of the swim, period. That's bad for business. So we just need to take again, I think I say this 5 times a year. I know people get annoyed, I'm sure, but it's the truth. And it is as a coach, it is the thing that I take the most serious, which is because I don't ever worry about, and I know you're the same way, right? You're tracking athletes. I worry. My day is over from a worry standpoint once they get off the bike. And that's just because, cars and other people, right? Mostly other triathletes, right? Mechanicals, flat tires, they're totally safe. My biggest worry and nightmare that would keep me up at night if I didn't take it seriously is the swim. Is fear of not preparing your athletes good enough not to make it out of the swim with the PR, but to be able to handle themselves in a tough, manageable swim that comes out of nowhere. Because that's about safety. Yes, you want them to swim fast, but a strong swimmer, an efficient swimmer, a competent swimmer, a swimmer who's comfortable in the water, that's about safety. And I think it's I'm sure I'll say it again later this year. I just think it's something very, very important that we don't talk about enough, because I'm sure it hurts people's feelings to say that they should swim faster and take it more seriously, because that's the world we live in now, where everyone gets a participation trophy, participation ribbon, and we're all here to give hugs. But this is a serious event, and we need to do more things to take it seriously and provide better training and better opportunities and higher demands for finishing it.
I actually love when you bring this up, because I'm a kind of guy that was an adult onset swimmer, and we coach a lot of people that, I think sort of, we talked about it. It's hard to go hard in the swim, in the pool, to push yourself. And I think it's just one of those things where you got to really kind of raise your ceiling in case you hit those situations. You want to feel stronger and able to get through different little currents or chop and these different things. And if you're not ready for it, I'm lucky enough to have a lake here, and the water's been fine, and I've started swimming again. And man, I am just, the difference between open water and a pool is just night and day. I have normally I have a 25-yard pool, and I'll just go back and forth, and I'll really feel like I'm kind of solid. But when I get out here, I've got it's about 100 yards out to the island beach here. So I've just been doing hundreds. And it's a different game. It's just different, man. You talk about like a 50-meter pool. Well, let's try 100-meter, you know, how it feels different. You no stopping type deal. And it's just woken me up again because, you know, that Moro Bay thing, and people are telling me about that. And yeah, I mean, I think you just got to really work hard and, like you're just saying, basically respect it because, you know, you can do it, but like, it's so easy to kind of get in there and just cruise through your workout. And it's different because there's no solid ground, you know, it's like you can do that in the run and get by and stop and walk or whatever. But, you know, you get out there and it's, you know, even just going straight has been something I've had to rekindle in myself, you know, and all these things. And it's important. Yeah, I tend to agree with you, man. It's sort of like, don't give people an opportunity to take it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because, you know, it's a short part of the swim. Even the chat, you know, it's downstream or whatever, but still, you know, I've been in downstream swims where I've just kind of tanked, man. Thought like I was going to, you know, I'm not going to get ready. You know, I'm not going to have to train much for this bullshit. That's like, what, I mean, 2,400 yards. That's 24 football fields. Look at that visual sometime.
Sounds so long. Yeah, like I'll never forget the first year that I went up to do Ironman Wisconsin, and the year you and I did it together, and walked down on top of Monona Terrace and looked out because back when it was a one loop, and I was like, holy shit, that's that
puts it in perspective, right?
Right. It is huge perspective. Like it's a long way. And so you take that into account, right? And then I love what you said about going hard in the swim, because it's a switch that we don't often have, and we're kind of afraid to use, right? Especially in the pool. Because I would also say, while the majority of athletes don't, it's like, you know, athletes on the bike, God, boring zone 1, zone 2, or God, give me some intervals so I can smash it, right? Another long, easy run. Give me some intervals. I'm going to rip it on the track. Everybody wants to go bonkers. Swim, oh yeah, just kind of cruise for 2,000. Just real easy. Yeah, just, you know, that's just getting my time in. And it's like that because people don't want to work hard in the pool because it does feel the hardest. It is the hardest. You do get the most hypoxic. You can't coast on the bike. You can't stop and walk. You can't sit on a curb. You don't have you're not standing in the 4-foot. You can't grab on the wall for 25 hours. You don't have lane lines. You don't have the black on. You don't have lifeguards. You're not in a building. You're straight up in the middle of, you are in Mother Nature. And she's in charge. You are not. And you're also in there with 2,000, 3,000 other people who are now participating in a totally different sport that is not pool swimming. And so to think about it from that like perspective, like the event that makes you the most hypoxic in we're talking about the swim portion is the one that people take the least serious and are the least willing to work at the demand that is required to be comfortable to swim that distance. And then you toss them in there, and they immediately swim over what they can normally swim. They're immediately out of breath. They immediately start to swallow water. And you're like, and you wonder how we got here. It's like the distance isn't trained for, the time isn't trained for, the intensity isn't trained for. And then we're kind of like, oh, I can't imagine how we got here. Because you can have like the best bike fitness and the best run fitness. You can also ruin your day in the swim. A lot of people do.
Yep.
And it is like, you're so right. Open water swimming isn't even in the same ballpark as, I would compare pool swimming is like the group century ride on a Saturday that's supported versus like cross country, intense single track route rock mountain biking, and that's open water swimming. That's how massive of a difference it is. Like the pool is you on the trainer on your TT bike with Zwift and your bottle set up and your fan out and perfect. and the other one is like being on single track, right? Going down some of the hardest, rootiest, rockiest portions. You're not even going to make it a mile probably. You're going to be like crashing every 2 seconds. You're going to be, I know the first time I went mountain biking with you, had to stop and wait for me like 19 times.
I know.
Because those trails are like legit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to corner. I didn't know how to like, keep momentum and change and balance. And you're up there just kind of cruising and moving along. And I come up, and they're up there waiting for me, making sure I wasn't, broken neck. Or like, that's how different it is. Like, and it takes practice to be comfortable. And even it takes you more than one. And it sure as hell doesn't take you to practice swim to get comfortable. And like for me, like I'm an okay pool swimmer, but I am much better in open water. I have immense comfort there. I have tons of confidence there. And to me, that allows me to bridge the gap on fitness because I don't lose any fitness. I kind of gain it because I know how to sight, I know how to swim straight, I know the stroke rate and the stroke cadence I need to use, and I know what I need to do. But we skip over it. And again, I know it's this a million times, but like I'm always curious if like what would happen to people's training if it was bike, run, swim. How serious people would take it when they're coming off the bike and run super fatigued and they got to go swim. They'd all take it more serious. And so I just, again, like it doesn't have to be about PRs. It doesn't have to be about, be on the podium and beating your last year's split. I'm like, it's about safety and it's about being confident because again, like, and again, we've got athletes that still struggle with confidence and gathering themselves, but they get back and they keep going at it and they keep working hard at it. They don't just succumb to the realization that's always going to be this way. And I think that's just a huge piece of not giving up and being resilient is getting back to work and not being deterred, right? You get pulled from the water, you DNF, you don't make the cutoff. Always ask yourself questions, was it the conditions today or was it my fitness? Or was it, or was it my inability to stay calm in the water? And then answer those questions. Because if 80% of the people are still making it out of the water, then it's probably not the conditions. It's probably the fitness and your comfort in the water. And that again, like you have to go back and look. All right, now what do I need to do? I need to be more comfortable in the water. I need to get more better fitness. And even then, if you can own those two things, and you can say to yourself, you know what? I tried to get more comfortable in the water. I didn't avoid it, right? I think that's what a lot of athletes, they avoid going back to the kind of the scene of the crime, right? They avoid going back. You have a bad experience outside of your bike. You hop on your trainer for the next year. Then all of a sudden you get back on the road and everybody is too close to you, even though they're like 10 feet away, right? And you're wobbling all over the place, which again is why we see so many wrecks and races now. And it's like, you avoid it. If you don't avoid it, embrace it, hop into it, right? Voice that fear and the realization of that and go to battle with it. Same thing with the fitness. I got to get back at it. And if that happens and you go back the next time and you get pulled or you DNF it, or at least you did everything you could. Because I think sometimes we just in life we always like to blame other people or outside circumstances or the things like, and sometimes that's the case. But a lot of times we can always kind of go back to ourselves and you know what? Did I really do everything that I could have done to put myself in the best position? And the answer is yes. Then you know what? Give yourself a pat on the back, get your ass up, go back out and do it the next time and see what happens. If you didn't, own that, which is interesting because this is the first race I've ever seen people, not all for sure, but a lot of people own, you know what? I just didn't take the swim seriously for this race. And that's why I got pulled. Yes, it was hard, but it's supposed to be hard, right? And so I just think like, think through that. And that was kind of one of the things I always kind of marveled at with that group that we had the first year that we started working together was how many of those people that came out there just genuinely had massive fear of open water and were just not comfortable. I mean, Teresa Steele, right? One of our longtime friends who was at that very first, open water swim group, we did 12, 13 years ago. And she massive fear of the water. I mean, she left the first day crying because she was so terrified. And I made her do some things she didn't want to do. But then a couple months later, she swam 1.2 miles and finished 7.3. I have such huge respect for people that tackle the uncertainty and do it in a way that, like, I think is just, I think I was texting you with this on Sunday. You're talking about an athlete. And I have such massive respect for people who work so hard and still have a level of uncertainty. Because, when I say things like, they should up the standard, for the swim, it's not because I want, people to be cut out. Because I'll be honest with you, I have more respect for the last 100 finishers on the course. A lot of times I do the first 100. Because I just think the amount of resiliency and work and the mental toughness and fortitude it takes to put in so much work and then go into a race not being totally sure if you're going to make it, but you still toe the fucking line and you still get out there and you still dig deep. That to me is one of the best parts of the sport. And I think it's I just think we can grab more of that instead of the, maybe the everyday. Honestly, maybe it's because I generally think a lot of it is the attitude of the middle of the pack athlete, where, you know what, I'm pretty much a good enough athlete. I'm pretty sure I could just kind of wing it. And then you don't, because now Ironman is like kind of like lowered the bar where you can just kind of like, you think you can just kind of do it. And I just have, like, the utmost respect for the people who just work their ass off regardless of the certainty of their time. And I think that's what we have to, it's like if you're a person that can normally run 7:30s and you're driving down the grocery store and you see somebody, running like a 13-minute mile, but you can see just how hard they're working, honk the horn, baby. You give them a little toot. Pump them up, because it's the same effort, it's the same hard work, it's the same method that gets you to success. And I just think we could use a lot more of that.
Yeah, and I know that's right on into the topic a little bit. Before we move on, though, I wanted to just kind of go back to what you were saying about how comfortable you are in open water. And, you obviously spent a lot of time there and you have the calmness about it and all that type of thing. And it just occurred to me that, we did hear a lot about how crowded the bike course was at Chat. And, obviously because it is a downstream swim, I think that kind of brings the group closer together and there's not as many spread out. And so you just launch a good chunk of the whole field out on the course at the same time. But, I've done that race many, many times. And in my situation, I'm very comfortable on the bike. So I've never really thought about that too much. It never bothered me. And I think it's because of what you're saying about just the years and years of bike handling or working at it and things like that. And I still, to this day, I'm always working bike handling stuff. And I just looked at it as an advantage in a sense, right? Because I get out a little behind and I'd start bunny hopping and leaping people all day. And I didn't have a problem with it. I don't feel that way, So certain people feel really comfortable in open water, and it's because they probably put a lot of time in out there. And think about like a Tour de France, the Peloton. They're riding next to each other for like fucking 6 hours.
All right.
Right next to each other, and everybody freaks out about that. But I've always kind of been intrigued by it. Just like, I'd like to do that, I think. I mean, it takes a lot of focus, and you have to be super calm and relaxed, but on it, So, man, those are the things that I think we got to take this whole thing across into cycling, too, because so many people are afraid of it out there.
You nailed it. I mean, it's the perfect analogy, because my comfort at open water is your comfort, leaning up into me on a bike ride to chat with me 4 inches from my bars.
Yeah.
And not many people have that anymore because everyone's stuck inside, right? And you're on the course and you say on your left, and they look left, so they swerve left. You see it all the time, right? On your left. People look to the left, and when they look to the left, they bring their left arm with them. They bring their bike right into the lane where you don't want to be. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yes. Is that course too crowded? Probably. Does some have a lot to do with it? 100%. It's 2 loops too. I get it. Or no, it's not 2 loops. It's 1. Mm-hmm. But it's so many people, and just the way that the stackers start, it's total crowd. crowd like nation. But you nailed it. It's like the lack of, because I also know that people under fuel on the bike because they're so worried about like taking their hand off the bars to drink that they don't drink. And then the whole race is done because they didn't drink enough on the bike. And a lot of it has to do because you're so worried about somebody coming next to you that you're so tense. And I know what what you pointed out about, the guys on the Tour de France, they're barely holding on to their bars. I mean, they can wiggle their fingers. They're taking drinks. They're not even using their hands. They're having conversations. Like, they're so relaxed. They have so much confidence because they're so comfortable there. None of what they're doing makes them panic, right? And then you get 3,000 athletes on a course on time trial bikes trying to pass somebody, and it is chaos. And we wonder why, right? Because it's your first outside ride of the season. Hello, like, get your ass outside. Even if it's like do loops in the parking lot, get used to being outside, right? Get comfortable with that feeling. Going downhill, not feathering your brakes, right? You just have to feel like you have to feel part of your bike, not like you're trying to fight it. And again, it's all exposure, right? We talk about it so frequently. It's like everything we do is about exposure. And the minutes you lose on courses that are technical and hilly by not knowing the course, by not knowing when to brake, not knowing when to accelerate, not knowing when to, pedal through a corner, and when roads are going to be rough. I mean, it's like it's all free time because it doesn't take any harder work. It just takes exposure. But you're so right. Like you got the swim and you got the bike, and then everyone blames it on the run, which is the easiest one to apply the exposure to.
Yeah. I just think it's really interesting because remember when we used to go out to the trace, we would pace line a lot, and we'd for 80 miles or something like that, we get about 6 or 8 people depending on who was out there, and just kind of drop back and take the lead and drop back, take whatever. And we did that all the time, and I was like, we'd go so much faster, obviously at less effort, but I was always thinking like, damn, well, this doesn't count really as much because of the draft. And it was definitely easier on the effort, but you go a lot faster in the whole 9 yards. But thinking back, boy, you had to be on your game, and practice being on someone's wheel and so like when you get in a race, like spread out 6 bike lengths, and maybe every once in a while there's a couple people bunched up or whatever, but that's no big deal at all. I mean, we were just putting ourselves, that was really more about being comfortable on the bike and handling the bike and just being totally locked in and relaxed at the same time. So those are the kind of things, man. I don't know. Like sometimes the people who get out and go that aren't used to group ride, you can tell it's like they're just hanging way out. They veer into the oncoming lane. It's like relax. Just I just think those things I think I underestimate them, kind of like maybe you do in the lake sometime. It's just so it comes naturally or whatever. But it's important, man, to like expose yourself.
We gave away effort, right, when we were doing those pace lines, but we gained speed because we had to be. I mean, think of the mental focus it takes to be on time trial bikes and pace line in a draft zone, knowing your hands aren't on the brakes, knowing you're on undulating terrain, right? A lot of times cars coming by, and then dropping back and coming back in. Like mentally, you had to be on it the whole time.
It's like game speed,
Exactly. That's the perfectly said. It's game speed. And there is no replacement for game speed. No amount of practice can prepare you for that. I made that comment playing tennis a couple of days ago. I took a long time off training for Texas, and then I did a couple of drills. And drills are great, but when you start to play a match, totally different speed. And you always have to anticipate playing 1 or 2 more balls than you would during practice. And so you're just not ready for it. And it's same thing as racing. It's game speed. You have to do some things that feel like game speed, right? And, hammering it on the trainer is also different than hammering it outside, because you don't have to shift. You don't have to drink. You don't have to maneuver. And it does. It's just a whole different mentality that you have to have. And that's why I think, like, again, like long course athletes, short course athletes, expose yourself, do things that are going to make you, again, like be out of your normal comfort zone, whether it's comfort zone speed, right? If you're an Ironman distance athlete, hop in a sprint, or do something, that's not your normal comfort zone. Get out on a group ride, go hop on a mountain bike, go trail run, go hop in open water, like do something that's going to expose you to be, again. And I think it has to be said, like, you feel like an athlete, like you have the ability to adapt on the fly and do it well, not just like a one-trick pony and then be really disappointed, when you sign up for, a race and you get something different. And again, like the more you can do, the better. And even then, it's still never going to be perfect, right? You got the perfect lead up, the perfect amount of exposure, perfect preparation, and you can still hop in a race day and still just not feel it. That happens. But the more you expose yourself to it, the better you're going to be prepared for that. And at least you can leave that race knowing you did everything that you could, regardless of the result, regardless of how your legs felt. You did everything you could. And I think if you can say that and genuinely and objectively, like really mean it, then I think that goes a long way to feeling satisfied when the race is over.
Yeah. I had a thought too, now that we're into this, back in the day, and even still to this day, when I'm out running and I get out a certain ways and I say I have, 20 minutes left or something like that, I always look for the hardest way. And I guess this can be, man, that course was hillier than I thought or whatever. It's like, let's take that out of it. Run those hills, get used to them. And I always say, when you see a hill on the course, you'd be like, oh, there's a hill, instead of, oh shit, there's a hill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you can do that all the time. I think that's honestly, if you can take, your, what is it? Where do you post your shit again? I can't remember. Strava. See, that's how far out of that I am. If you can take that element out and want to be showing out to people out of your training, I think it pays off. It's like, take the slower route or the harder route or whatever. And that's just sort of how I'm wired. I'm always, like around here, I'll go out and ride, and it's this big, loop, like 15 miles, but all the way around there's all these clover leaf, out and back type things. So you go out to a cul-de-sac and then there's like 3 clover leaves. I go around all of them, and it's all about bike handling. But you know what it does? It slows my time down big time. It's just like, instead of going open road and blasting and then just putting it up on Strava, I've gotten used to accepting that, because you want to see, right? You want to see your speed and you want to see your potential. And I'm kind of looking at this shit going, damn, I thought I hammered that. I was like, 16.7 miles an hour on that ride. And that's just not going to cut it for me. But I have to trust it in the end that during, race speed and race energy and all that kind of stuff comes into play, as long as I'm strong enough to handle it. Throwing that out there.
And I think that's, again, like when we talked about it, I think, last week when we talked about goals for races and preparing from the chin up versus just worrying about from the chin down, because that's the controlled fitness piece, right? It's like you're doing things that are out in the real world, in a real environment. And there's a delicate balance, I think, in doing enough to get the most out of all. Right. And I have a lot of athletes that just refuse to do some indoor training that probably will boost their fitness because it is so concentrated. It is so controlled. It is so, you do save time. Right. But you have also athletes who refuse to ride outside unless it's race day. All right. So you have those two ends of the spectrum, and there's things being lost on both. Right. But you're in the middle. It's like just finding the delicate balance between gaining enough fitness and then preparing your body and mostly I think your mind to being able to apply it to the real world. Right. It's kind of like I was a dentist yesterday, and I was just, they got these, like, I hate the dentist, absolutely hate it. And, they use these scrapers, and it's like, they take a machete to your mouth. And I just said, I said, were you ever nervous the first time you ever did this? Like, went in there because before that I said, if you want to be rich, you create dental tools that are totally silent, and everyone would be happier because all you can hear like the grinding in her teeth and stuff. Anyway, I said, were you ever like nervous? She goes, nah, not at all. Because you do it so much you do it so much in practice that, and they know you're a student, so it's kind of no big deal if you mess up. But now in the real world, she was like, nah, I'm not really nervous at all. And I was like, and I was thinking about, the topic we had last week. I was like, it's so true in terms of like, there's practice in like a controlled environment, on a dummy or like everyone knows you're practicing. And then you get out into the real world and, it's like, doing this practicing on a dummy who's not real. It's no pressure than practicing on like a human being, right? They can actually feel what you're doing. And that is also like how we train. Like you can do enough and prepare enough, but if you do nothing if you don't find open water swim in, if you don't get outside on your bike, if you don't run outside in hard conditions, like you're leaving so much on the table. So much. Because it's totally different. Everything is different. And it just takes, again, I won't lie to you. It takes effort. It takes effort to go find a lake to swim in, unless it's you. You can walk out your back door. But for you, it takes effort, right, to give to the, like you're a good example, right? Like the pool's so far away from you right now, you're going all in on exposure to open water, which probably kind of meet you halfway.
Yeah.
Right. You might not have the fitness you'd gain by repetitive pool workouts, but your exposure and comfort and level of comfort in the water will cancel out the lack of fitness in the pool. Right. And so, because you've got people who can swim amazing in the pool and get in open water and panic. And same thing on the bike. They can hammer on the bike and they wonder on race day, like why they can't put it together. And they're so sore and they don't drink enough because you're terrified to let go of the bars. So, it's just, there's so much to go into it. I think again, like going back to being an enabler, I think we enable ourselves now with the we call the creature comforts of being able to do everything inside. And yeah, are there some people, if you've been doing the sport for a long enough time, that you don't need as much exposure? Yes. Like me, for example, me and the swim, you and the bike, pretty much the same thing. Like I don't need to go expose myself to open water. Like I had a race this last weekend, got in, felt right at home. Haven't been in open water, in a couple months. Even when I did that, I feel right at home. I don't need the exposure. I've done it for so long and so often. It is second nature. Right. Same thing. And having said that, my first couple of times on the bike each year, I'm skittish. I don't have the same groove and flow that I have later on in the year. I need to do it more. You're the same way. You can hop right on the bike and you could probably juke around, move around, do bunny hops down the stairs and be good to go. And so the longer you've done something, the less you need to do it repetitively to kind of, like I say, it's kind of like riding a bike, to remind yourself of the feeling. But the shorter your athlete life cycle is, your athlete age in that sport, right, then the more exposure you need to get the most out of yourself. And it's just I think, again, like recognize that piece of you, right? That, if you've got a great mountain bike background, then yeah, maybe one outside ride before a race is probably enough and hammer it out inside. But if you just picked up biking a few years ago and your first bike was a tri bike, hello, Ironman athletes, get your ass outside and learn how to handle, learn how to use the gears, maybe, learn how to use the terrain, learn what the parts in your bike are called. Do that, right? Same thing goes if you just picked up swimming, find more time to get in open water, be more comfortable with it. That's fine. Take a trade-off. Because I would argue if it comes down to like swimming 3 days in the pool and no open water swims, or doing one open water swim and one pool workout for a newer swimmer, that's what I would say.
Say that again.
If it came down to, an athlete said, if I said, hey, Mike, to get better, you really need to swim 3 days a week. And I need one of those days to be open water. And you're like, dude, I can't do it. My work is not conducive to that. It takes me forever to get to the lake. So if I do that, I'm gonna have to cancel. I'm gonna go back down to one swim. Or excuse me, one pool swim and one open water swim. I can only do 2 swims a week.
Okay.
I would probably say do 2 swims a week. I would probably say go to the pool, swim super hard, maybe stick around a bit longer and do some intervals and work your butt real hard. And then open water, I want 45 minutes or depending on your race distance of steady, solid, no noodling around, no dick around swimming. Get comfortable. Let's see how straight you're swimming. And that's probably going to get the athlete farther than just the pool swims with no exposure to open water, limited comfort, not sure how they're going to feel. I just think that would be honestly like a better route to make someone, more solid in that area.
Interesting. I can see that, man. When you're talking about TT bike, I've ridden bikes my whole life and I'm really comfortable on them, but even till this day, I like a TT bike is just different. It's just different. I still have to work on it to get, really good handling. And, it just takes me forever to get used to it. I can jump on a road bike and it just feels different, and I don't quite understand. I mean, I do understand, but or a mountain bike or whatever, but the TT bike, when you're talking about, going straight for 60 miles, that's different than actually riding a course like Madison or something, or Chattanooga. I mean, it's sort of, when you got turns and shit to deal with, the people, I still am, not completely comfortable on a tri bike. It's just weird. So my point is, I think you need a lot of time, and like you're saying, a lot of time in open water if you're not used to it, because unless you can swim a ton and then get in that open water and just be able to say, oh, this is just water too. Because that's how I sort of approached it the last couple of years, is because not here, but before that I was in the pool all the time. But
yep.
You can get in water and be like, open water, this is fucking weird, but or you can just relax and just be one with the water. But that takes mindset and, that takes work too, I think, just to be able to prep for that.
Yeah, it does. And again, we're not trying to tell you that making those decisions, are easy, because we've all got different life situations. Like to me, I've got to go, our situations are total opposite. I've got a pool in my neighborhood 3 minutes away that I can start swimming in next week. But a lake 45 minutes away. You've got a pool 45 minutes away and a lake you can walk to, right? So you have to, and then you've got athletes that they can bike from their front door and never see a car, right? And then you got athletes who don't feel comfortable at all riding from home, and they have to drive somewhere to find a way to ride. And so that's why each athlete has to kind of take their own personal inventory of, what do I need the most? What's the best bang for my buck? What's going to make me the most prepared? I love the game speed, game ready, or it's just that's what we have to start feeling like too much. It's not if hopping on full gas and doing the course ain't getting race ready. You're watching a screen scroll through. It's getting outside on course, feeling the same, feeling the burn. Even, from not being in TT position enough. I noticed that from me this last weekend when I raced, that my hip flexors got a little bit fatigued as I was hammering it in the TT position because I hadn't spent enough time putting out hard intervals in time trial position. Immediate thing I need to work on. There's so many things. Again, the sport is so it's not complicated. It's just it encompasses so many things that we tend to take a one size fits all approach to all training all the time. I mean, I've got some athletes that only train inside and that's all they'll ever do. I got some that have an endless pool in their garage, bike trainer and treadmill. That's all they do. I've got some athletes who refuse to swim in the pool, who refuse to hop on the trainer and don't even own a treadmill and wouldn't even know what one looked like if it hit him in the head. So we all have these different things we have access to, and abilities to do certain things. There's this, you got to be super creative in it, and also just own the fact that this is your journey. This is your race. This is your schedule. This is, where are you? What do you need? Right? What do you need to get better? And you can, I need to gain a few watts here. I need to drop a few pounds, right? A lot of it is not like, yes, could that help? Sure. But some of the lowest hanging fruit just takes a little more thought, right? Like the guy that spends, 6 hours in his garage, dipping his chain in ceramic coating and wiping his bike down because he just rode on Zwift for 4 hours. And then gets out on the road gets on the road on race day and super twitchy and can't produce because, he isn't used to riding outside. Can't hold a position for a long period of time. Swimming same way. People got no problem dropping $900 for a wetsuit they might wear 3 or 4 times a year in a race. They'll refuse to practice in it. Drop $200 on some form goggles. Got a Garmin and I got all these things, but then when it comes to getting out open water and like the real world, totally different. So again, I think we all can take like that personal inventory, hopefully, and figure out like what's the best route for me to get better. And like we were talking before the podcast about you're doing you're kind of going with your gut a lot more, and what feels to be true is like when you go that route, you're like, this is my journey. It's what I feel is right for me. It's biking outside and it's hopping in the lake every day and it's running on the beach. Are you going to have these like marginal gains here and there? Maybe, maybe not, but you're going to do it more often because you love it and it's your own, and you're not forcing it because it fits in seamlessly. And I just think there's a lot, like creating that perfect training environment doesn't have to be creating the perfect pain cave, right? For a lot of people, it's creating the perfect flow. Open water swim every other week, trail run every other week, mountain bike every other week, right? Open water swim with the group, run with the group here, group ride with the group here. You could do all those things and still be a successful, triathlete. You don't always have to be, solo and alone. And it's just like, that's one of my goals. Like there's a group that swims open water here Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Fridays. And I want to get out there and start doing that more because I love open water. I miss those days where, I don't miss being hungover, but I miss those more. That's some of my favorite mornings ever. Those mornings on Anderson Road Beach. And I miss those, and just being there's no better way to start the day. And so I just got to find the time to do it. And it takes a little bit extra effort. And I think we could all put a little bit extra effort in those areas.
Yeah, for sure. And just quickly, I'm doing the horribly hilly race, and I think it's in like 3 weeks or something like that.
That's right.
And obviously it's a lot of hills and it's brutal and whatever, but I don't even think I'm going to be able to ride hills before then. So on this flat road, I just kind of like put it in hard gears and just work on cranking, and also just work on really good efficiency, pedal stroke into the wind and stuff like that, and just try to be relaxed. So yeah, it's all about kind of finding your environment and figuring out how to make it work for the races. And, because everything isn't going to be perfect, but just do what you can. Do what you can to get into that race mentality and race game or game speed and the whole 9 yards. But anyway, that's a good place to wrap it up. I think we got the point across.
I think hopefully we did. And if we didn't, we'll try again on Thursday. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you again on Thursday. And a reminder, if you need anything else, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available at mike@c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me, I'm available at robbie@c26triathlon.com.
All right, buddy. I enjoyed that, man. Get into it.
Yeah, that was fun. I'll see you in a little bit.
All right, man. See you.